Hi everybody, welcome back to our van build series. I am Mike and this is Sir Cedric, our 1988 Mercedes T1 Braymo, which we currently convert into an overlander camper van. This time we want to build the compost toilet, but rather than just a toilet box, we will build a full toilet room with a door. And the toilet will get two very essential features because we absolutely want to avoid later to handle with a bucket of shit and a canister of piss inside the van. That would be an absolute no-go. How can we avoid that? So we will build the toilet in this area here. That means it will extend a little bit into the area of the sliding door. And with doing that, we can build a flap which we can open to empty the canister with the dry residues. For the liquid waste, we build a pipe that goes directly into our wastewater tank under the van, and so we do not have any canisters of piss inside the van. If you haven't seen the video where we built this underfloor wastewater tank, that's linked somewhere up here. Of course, we will also have two fans, one for the room itself, that's our MaxxFan Dome, which you probably know already, and the second one will be a fan in the floor of the van for the toilet box itself. In total, we have 6 firewalls against toilet smell in our blueprint. And one of the features will be some kind of water flush, so please stay tuned and enjoy the video. But now let's stop talking and start working. Already a few months ago and before installing the floor panel, we cut 2 holes in the floor of the van. One will be for the fan in the toilet box and the other one will be for the pipe to the wastewater tank under the van. We were not sure if it's better to start building the toilet box first and then build the room around the box, or first build the toilet room and then build the toilet box inside of it. I think both ways are possible, but we decided to build the room first. Of course, the jagged walls of the T1 don't make this job easy. We tried to duplicate the shape of the wall on cardboard, but need several attempts to get it right. The cardboard is then the template for the real wall, in our case 15mm poplar plywood. The shape which we need is really quite loony and I hope we don't mess things up because these big panels are quite expensive. But the first fitting test doesn't look bad. Also, the bracket of the sliding door doesn't get into conflict with the panel, so we can move on. Of course, the panels need proper sanding with 220 sandpaper, but also a bunch of holes for pipes and cables. You probably wonder why we cut this big hole, which is for the fridge, but more in a second. For the toilet walls, we use the same paint like for our cabinets. That is one coat of Osmo Decor Wax in matte white and one coat of Osmo Hard Wax also in white to increase the durability. For the back panel we use 8mm poplar plywood, and as this panel can be seen when the sliding door is open or even when it's closed through the window, it gets a decorative cover. Here we again use an old coffee sack like for the door panels in the back of the van. The glue has to be sprayed on both the jute sack and the wood panel. And then we have to wait for 15 minutes until the glue has dried a bit and we can press pieces together. For this job I use Würth Kraftsprühkleber Plus. I have tried other products, but this is definitely the best spray glue. Link to this product, like for all products which we use, can be found in the description below. As we want to have access to the shit bucket from outside, we cut a hole for a flap into the back wall and attach the flap with simple hinges. A big and heavy piece like the toilet room needs proper tie down, of course. Those of you who have seen my other videos know my preferred method, that is bolts in anchor nuts of the floor subframe. For maximum stability we use a total of 3 spruce wood slats bolted to the floor subframe. And now we also cover the hole for the fridge box. So why did we cut this hole in the beginning? Simple answer is we need this hole to get the fridge box out of its cabinet in case of repair or replacement. We just want to be prepared if that happens and not break down the whole toilet wall in such an event. 2 more slats get bolted into anchor nuts of the ceiling subframe, plus another one into the subframe of the wall. And that should be enough to hold everything in place. For ventilation, we install vents between the toilet and the bedroom. That might look like a very stupid idea because you don't want to get toilet smell in the bedroom, of course. But if someone causes smell in the toilet, we can close the vent and switch on the MaxxFan in the ceiling of the toilet to extract the bad smells. Whereas at night, without toilet smell, we can open the vent, open the MaxxFan in the toilet without activating it, and open and switch on the MaxxFan in the kitchen to extract the air. This should create an airflow from the MaxxFan in the toilet into the bedroom and out through the kitchen. Additionally to the MaxxFan in the ceiling of the toilet room, there will be another fan in the floor. Not for the room, just for the toilet box itself. To prevent critters from visiting, we attach a flange with both steel and plastic mesh. Also, we mount a frame around the vent to get a clean finish with the floor panel of the toilet. The next step is the toilet itself. The advantage of building the walls first is that we don't need a full box anymore, just a front panel and a cover with the separator and the toilet seat. The front panel is not just plain straight, but a bit edgy. You will soon see why that's an advantage. But first, this piece gets also painted. And then we install a switch for the fan in the floor. The test is successful, so the cables are correctly connected and the fan does its job. The fan itself is a computer spare part. These fans are cheap, super quiet and have a minimal consumption of just 0.13 amp. That equals 3 amp for a full day, so we will probably permanently leave it running. For installing the fan, we simply use 2 screws into the flange. Our floor panel is 8mm poplar plywood, which we painted with Osmo Decor wax in ebony black. The floor panel is mounted with screws into the subframe slats. The only reason for this extra floor panel is to hide the slats, which we need to secure the walls of the toilet room. The walls for the toilet room are finished and they turned out to be quite solid, so the only panel missing now is the one at the bottom. We removed it again because we think it's nicer to also use some kind of coffee sack for decoration and not leave it in white. So that's the reason why we took it off again. Next step is now building the compost toilet itself, and for that we use a separator which we bought from Kildwick. That's this piece here, and I mean probably everyone who is into van life already knows what a compost toilet is and how it works, but just very brief for the few who don't. You separate the liquid stuff from the solid stuff, so you, like this, the solid stuff goes into a bucket which we can empty here from the back where we have our flap, and the liquid stuff goes in here through the pipe into our wastewater tank under the van. And the nice thing about the separator from Kildwick is, that's the reason why I bought it, it's an XL version, and like this it's not only small and much easier to clean, so we will also mount it. Also, this is then the panel what we use to mount the separator, and we mount it from above. It would also be possible to cut the hole and mount it from the bottom, but I think it's much easier to clean if you mount it from the top, because then you do not have any cut edges from the wood, but it's just the solid plastic which is very easy to clean. What we have to do now is cut the hole to mount the separator in this top panel. The Kildwick separator comes with a cardboard template, so it's easy to mark the necessary hole in the panel. If you use our setup with the separator on top of the panel and not below it, cutting with the jigsaw is relaxed because the cut edge will finally be invisible anyway. The Kildwick separator will be placed on 2 support slats in the back and our edgy front panel. That's really super simple but absolutely functional, and it even looks good, as you will see later when it's finished. For the bucket we have built a nice little frame, primarily of course to stabilize the bucket, but also to raise the bucket by 2 cm. Otherwise the bucket would have blocked the air circulation of the fan, but with a little space it works fine. In order to be able to empty the bucket without lifting the Kildwick separator, the frame is secured with latches which we can open. Like this we can remove the bucket through the flap without having to touch the Kildwick separator. Meanwhile, we also cover the lower section of the back panel with another coffee sack. But before we attach this panel, we secure all conduits which cross the toilet room with some cut pieces of an old tension belt. That looks much more tidy now. Then we can finally mount the missing panel. The flap still needs a latch, then this side is finished. In the upper part of the wall we have to cover the mechanism of the sliding door and some distribution boxes. One of these panels gets an LED spot to have light in the toilet. My original idea was to use this simple plastic siphon, but I couldn't find a proper way to connect the Kildwick separator to this siphon. Then I realized that Kildwick offers its own siphon, this piece here, and this is a real quality piece made of stainless steel and an absolute game changer. With this siphon it's suddenly super easy to connect to a 19mm pipe and finally to the wastewater tank under the van. To cut a long story short, if you use an underfloor wastewater tank for your Kildwick toilet, this siphon is by far the best method to connect and to avoid smell. It's straightforward to bolt the siphon to the front panel of the toilet box and you can direct the nozzle exactly in the desired direction. In my case that has to be transverse because the wastewater pipe will have to go into this hole here. This siphon is not only functional but also visually very pleasing. And it's still possible to lift the separator for cleaning or emptying the bucket if you don't have access from the back like I have. Now it's time for a fitting test of both top panel and separator. Okay, quite dirty, sorry for that, but it fits perfectly. My grandma, aged 102 years, is very curious what such a compost toilet looks like, so I built a provisional staircase to give her a tour of the van today.
Ja, gibt's denn sowas?
Und das ist halt sozusagen unsere ganz spezielle Toilette. In der Mitte ist diese Toilette getrennt. Das Feste kommt hinten in den Eimer rein und wird entsorgt. Und das Flüssige geht in den Abwassertank, der unter dem Auto drin ist.
Das ist ja toll.
One major part of the toilet room is still missing, that's of course the door. Here we also use 15mm poplar plywood and we use the same kind of concealed hinges like for the kitchen cabinet. But 2 would probably not be enough for the weight of the door, so we better use 3 of them. For details of the installation process of such hinges, please check out my video about the closet under the bed, which is linked up in the corner. I really like these kind of hinges because it literally takes less than a minute and no tools at all to remove or remount the door anytime that's necessary in the future. A white toilet door would too much dominate the interior of the van, so our idea is to cover the door with bamboo blinds. We found these blinds on Amazon and got them shipped directly from China, which to my big surprise was quite fast and absolutely without problems. Now we are really curious what the finished door will look like. Yeah, we are happy with the result. We still haven't glued the Kildwick separator to the cover panel of the toilet. For that we just use silicone. A real glue is not necessary with our setup on top of the plywood panel. The last thing missing is now a toilet seat. A white one would be boring of course, but I found this one and that's a real eye-catcher I think and perfectly fits for a world-traveling overlander. And that's again one of the jobs that I really hate because there is just one chance to get it right, or in the other case ruin the Kildwick separator and having to buy a new one. So we measure 100 times to drill the holes in the correct position. Attaching the mounts of the toilet seat is then a relaxed and easy job. Exciting moment now, the first fitting test of the complete toilet seat. Luckily, the lid of the seat stands upright and doesn't fall down. That was my biggest worry with the limited space. And the seat looks cool. I think the perfect design for an overlander van. But there are still some features missing, some special features which you surely can't find in every van build video. First piece is a frame for a box or tin with wood shavings and a bottle with water, which are two more modules in our fight against smell in the van. The frame gets the same color like the floor, that's Osmo Decor wax in ebony black, and then we mount it next to the toilet seat. And both our coffee tin and the bottle looks very decorative in their black frame. The advantage of screwing directly with the small tin compared to having a bigger box and using the hand to screw the shavings is for sure less dirt around the toilet. Okay, we will have to fill the tin quite often, but that creates the mess outside the van and not in the toilet room. Those wood shavings can be bought for a few cents in the local pet shop. The big box goes into the garage under the bed. The next special feature is even more unusual. I want to have a secondary toilet lid to stop any possible smell from the bucket. We cut that from a plywood panel painted with Osmo Decor wax in the same color like the panels of our ceiling, and as a special design feature it gets a nice knob. This secondary lid is a big advantage because the normal toilet seat doesn't seal the toilet at all. And now you can proudly present the toilet to your friends without risking the embarrassment of showcasing a full bucket. Let me give you a full tour of our finished toilet now. From outside we tried to make it less dominant with the coffee sacks, and from inside we used the bamboo roller blind, and this bamboo roller blind is also a nice match to the bamboo countertop. The door of the toilet opens with a little push, and using this kind of push lock we could avoid to disturb the clean design with a knob or a handle. The bamboo theme also continues inside with the bamboo toilet seat. When you open the lid, you can see the Kildwick Separator. The whole module, the separator together with the seat, can be removed, but we don't have to do that to empty the toilet. The bucket with the solid waste can be accessed from outside via the flap. And the liquid waste goes through the Kildwick Siphon into a 19mm pipe, which isn't fixed yet, into our underfloor wastewater tank. Our top priority was to avoid smell inside the van, so we have a total of 6 firewalls against smell. First of all, there is a fan in the bottom, which you can activate with a switch, but best is probably to just leave it running permanently. Second, we have this tin with wood shavings to cover the poo-poo after doing the business. Third, we have this secondary toilet lid. This doesn't just put a barrier to smell, but is also a visual barrier that you do not have to gaze at your last big business when you just want to pee. Fourth, the Kildwick Siphon is an odor trap which prevents bad smell coming back from the pipe and from the wastewater tank under the van. Fifth, we have a proper water flush. With this bottle we can flush the siphon, and so our toilet could be honestly called a dry toilet with water flush. So maybe we should rebrand it to hybrid toilet. Sixth and final firewall is our MaxxFan Dome in the roof, so I would definitely say there is absolutely no chance for any kind of smell from the toilet in our van. Maybe I still have to explain why we have this kind of strange shape of our toilet box and not just a flat panel. With a flat panel we would have the problem that our feet block the door from closing, and the recess just gives enough space that we do not have to practice yoga to close the door. I have talked a lot about the toilet now, but this room has a second function. In our other van, the Ford Transit Westphalia, we always have the problem where to put wet stuff, a wet towel after our morning routine or a wet jacket on a rainy day. And in this toilet we have installed bamboo rails up there, so we can hang wet towels, and we even bought a special hanger for our shoes. And directly above is the MaxxFan, which we can activate to create airflow and extract humidity. And if our sneakers smell badly after a day of adventures, we can also hang them up there and activate the MaxxFan. And that's an absolute genius hack against stinking shoes in a van. And that's usually a real problem, isn't it?
Finally, I also found this cool hanger for the book roll.
Well, let me know in the comments what you think about our toilet. Do you also think a toilet is absolutely essential in a van like I do? Or would you have a better use for this space? If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment and subscribe. All of that would really help for the YouTube algorithm, and see you next time.
Das wird so ein ganz bunter Stoff für die Sitzkissen. Das ist so ein indisches Motiv. Ich weiß nicht, kennst du das?
Ja.
Eigentlich hatte ich gedacht, wir bringen das im Altersheim vorbei. Und die Nähmaschine kriegst du auch, das schaffst du locker noch, oder?
Wir haben ja schon eine Nähmaschine gehabt, was eine mehr mitbringt. Eine Tretnähmaschine haben wir ausstellen.
Da wird's den Winter nicht langweilig. Da gibt's ein bisschen was zu tun.
Ach, ich habe keine Lust mehr. Mir ist kalt. Schau mal, ob das alte verwendbar ist.